So, Sardar, we were talking yesterday about what is identity and access management, right? And what is it and why does it matter? So can you answer that question?
So identity access management is, securing the data, not compromising the customer data, company data,
Mm-hmm.
and control role-based access, privilege access, attribute-based access, uh, grouping. So pretty much, yeah. There is the identity provider, then there is a service provider.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, that's a lot of that is what you said is correct. So it's basically all about making sure that the right people have access to the right
Right thing. Yeah.
resources at the right time for the right reasons, right? That's
Mhm.
basically what it's all about. You obviously don't have the wrong person to have the access to the wrong things, right? So giving that access and also managing that process of how that access will be given as people come in and out of our organization. Generally speaking, identity access management has three big components, umbrella. One is called EIAM, which basically stands for Employee Identity Access Management. So that's internal employees at your company. Then you have something called CIAM, which is basically Customer Identity Access Management. So anytime you need to give access to something that's outside of your organization,
Mhm.
we're talking about that Customer Identity Access Management. And then you also have Privileged Access Management. That's called PAM. So
Right.
that's basically highly confidential information. So think like in a company, how many people in your company needs to know what the payroll is? Very few, right?
Right.
Or what your employee's social security number is. That's highly privileged level of access, the people that can see that because they can do a lot of damage with that information, right? So
Right.
we want a very, very big protected, we want to really be able to protect that kind of data. So that's called PAM. So the core principles of identity, IAM is basically identification, which is, your actual ID, who are you?
Mhm.
Authentication, right? Um, verifying that you are who you are saying that you are, and then authorization, which is basically authorizing you to access something or getting you access to something, and accounting. What is accounting, Sai?
I think it's the with the logs, accountable for the access of information, because I was reading about CIA and AAA.
I guess
CIA,
this is maybe.
confidentiality, integrity, availability. You're saying that?
Right.
Yeah, I
Yes.
was asking you, what is this one? I'm not familiar with what is
Yeah, I'm not
accounting.
sure. I'm not sure on that. What it is actually referring here, I'm not sure. Is it kind of accounting in the sense of grouping
Yeah,
all the identities for clients
accountability.
and maintaining them?
Yeah. My bad.
Okay, it may be that, yeah. So what is the difference between identity and access?
Sada, what is triple A? I know CAA. What is triple A? Accountability.
No, I was saying authentication, authorization, and accounting. That was AAA. But
Okay.
identification, IAAA is different. What I was reading today on the Okta, this
Hmm?
learning material, there was one thing
Hmm?
called CIA and one was AAA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You can send me that link. I will have a look.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, ChatGPT is getting you the data. Uh,
Mhm.
not only from Okta, on a high level, it will get you the data. So I too didn't hear something as IAAA. It's AAA and CAA. I do have heard about,
Right.
but basically, what Okta does is it does all the four, right? Identification, it does, and the other AAA also it does.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
it's not necessary to mention, but if it mention also, no problem.
You're right.
Got it.
Yeah.
Some of
Yes,
these
Rafi, carry
ones,
on.
I'm not super sure how relevant they are, like discretionary and mandatory. So I'll skip those. but I know these two are important. So Sardar, can you tell me what is the difference between role-based access control and attribute-based access control?
So role based is depends on your designation in the company. Like if you are in marketing, you are a marketing analyst, your role is different. You are in HR, your role is different. So if we do multi authorization, like multi group authorization, so let's suppose HR will have the access to HR as in role based, but as in employee based, all the common access which all the employees has. And the attribute based is based on the geography, time zone, or a special project where we can access, like nobody should access my account from Eastern Europe at 3 a.m. what you mentioned last time. So those are called attribute based access control, and then role based access control. I don't know if I'm correct.
I think you're kind of close. So role-based, you have that down pat, right? Like my role is marketer.
Right.
So if that's the case, me as that, like let's just say at your company you have the IM engineer, he would then say, okay, anybody at the company who is a marketing manager needs to have access to this, and this. And they need to have this level of access. So they map that out, right? So then anytime a marketing manager joins the company, they automatically get that access based on their role, right? Does that make sense?
Right.
So that's as a role and as a marketer, you automatically get those access because those accesses are tied to that specific role,
Right.
those permissions, right?
Right.
Whereas attribute-based access means an attribute. What is an attribute? Attribute is something about you, right?
Right.
Like I'm Rafi. One of my attributes is that I am male. I am 34 years old. I work as a solutions architect, and I like to play basketball, right? So
Right.
let's just say in your company, you wanted to give all the people who have an attribute that says plays basketball access to the gym,
Right.
right? To your basketball gym.
Right.
You would then use an attribute-based access control to say, okay, I'm going to write a policy that says that anybody whose profile says they play basketball as one of their hobbies, let's give them access to this gym.
Right.
That would be attribute-based, whereas role-based would be like anybody who is a cashier needs to have access to the POS system in my store,
So the common
right?
factor is the attribute. So it could be different department, different role, but a common attribute will bring them to a group for an attribute-based access control.
Correct. You can actually make groups based on
Like
attributes as
like
well.
like the C-suite, if we see C-suite access could be an attribute role. Like one is a chief operating officer, one is a chief financial officer, one is a chief executive officer. So based on the attribute base, we can grant them certain access for the information. So that will be attribute-based access.
In that particular example, it could be, but that sounds more like role-based, what you just described, because
No,
they each have their
but each have their role base. Will like finance department, the CFO will have access as a role based, but as an attribute of C suite, that these are all the chief of their department, there could be one access grant to them based on their attributes that they belong to C suite.
got it. Yes, you can think of it like that. Yes. If
Right.
they all have the attribute of C-suite,
Right.
and that is an attribute that
If
we consider, then yes. Right,
Yes.
Sai?
yeah, see,
Okay.
if the access is given based on an attribute, then it's an attribute-based access control. Okay.
Right.
If the
Mhm.
access is given based on a role, even if the role can be an attribute also sometimes. Okay.
Right.
If the role can be an attribute in the user profile, if it is given based on the role, then it will be called as role-based access control. It's the how organization will define it. Okay. In terms of Okta, see both the role-based and access-based can be in the same attribute, profile of the user. And one more thing is, in terms of Okta, if you're looking in terms of Okta, role-based access control, let's say yesterday Rafi accessed his work Okta tenant, right? Where you can only have access to the end user dashboard. You don't have access to the admin because in the Okta, there is no role assigned to Rafi. Okay. Whereas in his own tenant, he has the super admin role where he can access the admin
Or I
console.
believe attribute like the most close example for an interview or something could be a geographical location, like we are
No.
a different team, but we are in central time.
Uh,
That could be an attribute that all central time employees will have access based on attribute. Or geography, like Europe team will not have access because their geography don't match with us, right? That could be an attribute access role as well, attribute based access control. That's correct.
you're speaking more of a policy. You're speaking more of an restricting the access rather than granting the access. Of course, the whatever you said,
Okay,
that
makes
sounds more of a restricting the access rather than granting
grant,
the access.
right.
But that's I mean,
Let's
technically
assume
what
like,
he's saying is correct, right? Because if I have
yeah,
attributes saying that, hey, these are all the Memphis-based people, that is an attribute of them, right? So that's
Geographical attribute.
correct.
yeah, it's an attribute, but that he's clearly mentioned that in an interview, and it's more sounding like an
You are
restriction
restricting
policy
that.
rather than the
Right,
access based thing. So you
right.
can
Yeah.
say that based on a specific attribute in the user profile, you can delegate the access to certain resources.
Or
Okay.
we can make it more on a project base instead of geographic base. That different geographic
Yeah.
we are granting the access, like different people from different department working on a certain project, so that
Yeah.
it becomes their attribute where they are
Yes.
grant the attribute. But I think that will be more close and
Yes.
answer, right? Not an open
Yes.
they can.
Yes. Yes. Right. This is the
Right,
widely used also
right, right.
scenario.
Based, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But
I think we are good with the role based and attribute based, right?
right.
Yeah. Can you scroll a little bit above? There's something as mandatory access.
Yeah, I can take a guess at what these are, but
Mhm.
you want me to try to explain them?
Yeah. If you want to give a guess, you can. I will correct you if for the discretionary.
Discretionary,
Go on.
I'm assuming that's probably like you give access maybe like case by case or based on certain conditions that you set, and it has to be reviewed case by case.
I think discretion, what I was reading today on the different types of user and their supervisory role, admin role, group admin role, it's based on the view only, read only, and edit. If they can edit the information, I believe, discretionary access control, if I'm correct.
I think that's describing the level of access that they have, but again,
Yeah.
that's
It's kind of you're gonna describe the level of access, whether he can edit, view.
So that's not a discretion.
Mhm.
yeah, and then mandatory access
So let's
control,
let's
maybe
say this,
like
right?
What is
You're
it?
a owner of a file in the Google Sheet.
Right,
Okay. Now you want to share it with n number of people, and
right,
when you are sharing the link, you can define their people with the link what they can do, whether they can view, edit.
right.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. What is discretionary? Even I'm not sure on that part. Okay.
Right.
so
So
if that's the
basically,
case, then
you.
what Sardar is saying is correct.
Mhm.
Basically, he just explained that concept, right?
Because I
That
read,
you're choosing for that specific resource what level of access each person has, and you're deciding based on each specific resource case by case.
that look to me a further category, like further divide based on role based. That role based, like we all are the marketing team, but marketing team, not everybody should have same like access of information is fine, but edit, read, write, and change the information, I think, was a subcategory of role based access control, was falling under discretionary access control. We all belong to the team, but we still have our layers of edit, view, and read only information.
Yeah.
Okay.
right?
I'm
Correct?
not sure
Yes,
about this one. Okay, go
yes,
ahead.
yes.
Sorry.
But in Okta,
Uh-huh.
there's nothing specific, on an user interface level. There's nothing specific as you can define discretely, but it's completely on. This should be on the application level itself, based on the user attributes. The application whenever the application consumes the data from the IDP will send the data of the user to
Right.
the SP. Whenever the SP consumes the data, inside the data, it will look for the user permissions, what kind of permissions that the user had
Right.
in this application.
Right.
So let's assume that Okta is your IDP. Let's assume like that, and some other application is your IDP. Okta is your SP, and some other application is your IDP. So
Right.
when you are accessing Okta, you are authenticating with uh, some other external IDP, and
Right.
the external IDP is sending data to your Okta. Now Okta reads the data and sees that, okay, this profile belongs to Rafi Chowdhury. Okay, what are all the roles he had? In the role, if it clearly mentions super admin,
Right.
Okta will consume the role and provide access to Rafi based on that.
Right.
So
Yeah,
what you
so
just now
this is just
described
an
is
example.
role-based? It's an example of what?
It's an example of sending sending the SAML or whatever OADC assertion with the required user data. So
Mm.
in one way, yeah, what we are speaking is what Saddar has told, right? Let's say you're part of sales team, but in the sales team also, not everyone will have access, like edit access. Not everyone will have, uh, view access. You might not have access also. Just they do get access to only certain resources, not the privileged resources. So how are you gonna define them? So I was just telling you, based on the attribute level only, we're gonna define whenever we configure the SAML, we're gonna define particular attributes in that SAML assertion. So whenever the SAML assertion is sent, let's say like app role, there's something as app role that you defined app role. That app role will be sent to your SP, service provider, who is consuming your data. So
Right.
once that guy receives your app role, based on the app role, that service provider can delegate access to you. What level of access you needed, based on that app role only, he can look and delegate access to you.
Right.
So what you're describing basically, in that SAML assertion that's being sent, it's basically like taking all the information, what kind of level of access needed, blah blah blah, permissions for each one, putting it in a
Uh-huh.
little capsule, and then sending it over to the next person, saying, "Hey, here's all the directions."
Yes,
That's
yes,
all
yes.
that
So
process does,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Today at the end of the class, we will see that how the SAML is going to send the assertion to the SP and what are all included in that assertion. Okay.
Got it.
Okay. Just remind me at the end of the class.
Okta is an IP or is an SP?
Sorry.
Okta is an
In today's scenario, Okta is an IDP. We will
IDP.
use an open source application for the SP.
Okay.
Okay. So the second thing is mandatory access control. I think by the name itself.
Okta can be a service provider as well, Sardar, just to clarify that. It can be
Okay.
both.
Any identity federation system can act as IDP and SP.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so what is the mandatory access control?
Whenever any employee joins an organization, by default they should get access to certain things. Agreed? Like Outlook is something that everyone should have access, irrespective of the role that he has.
Right.
The payroll application, he should have access, irrespective of which department he is.
Correct.
So similarly,
Yes.
all the access that are mandatory to every employee, they group all the applications which is needed for every employee, irrespective of the role that he is, department that he is. So in those cases, they're gonna group some of the application and say like this is like mandatory access for everyone.
Mm,
Birthright. Some people say it as birthright. Okay.
got it. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then Sardar, can you explain what is the principle of least privilege?
Least privileged?
Principle of least privilege. What does that mean? And when do we deploy that principle?
I mean, by word I can define, but Okta or IT terminology, I'm not familiar.
So within identity and access, we'll not forget about Okta specifically. Within identity access management, what do we mean by people should only have what?
I mean, no information to the top secret or the confidential document. So they fall maybe under the least privilege.
So you're close. So least principle of least privilege basically is a principle, right? It's something that's we generally try to adhere to, which basically says that we should only give people only the level of permissions and access that they need to do their job, and that's it. No more than that.
Right. Least
So a
privilege.
good example would be, let's just say I have a YouTube editor manager who is
Mm,
publishing and editing videos on YouTube for me, right?
right.
I need to make him an editor who needs to be able to edit and publish videos on my behalf on YouTube. But I do not need to give them my Gmail username and password, so he has access to all of my stuff, right?
Right.
So that would be in that scenario, if I say that, okay, he needs access to my YouTube, so I'm going to make him an editor in my YouTube channel, and that's it. I'm not going to give him my Gmail password. That's me exercising the principle of least privilege.
Right.
He only needs access to my YouTube to edit and publish videos. That's it. He doesn't
Right.
need all of my Gmail access.
Right.
Okay. Do you have any idea what is separation of duties? What does that mean? Or toxic combinations?
No.
Okay. So that's another principle. It's called separation of duties. It basically says that a person, and again, it's just a principle, it's something good to do, right? A person should not have the ability to have roles that basically uh, are toxic in combination with each other. So an example would be um, a guy who is a gas station attendant should not be able to drop cash into the safe and also be able to open the safe to take the money out of the cash too.
So maker and
Right?
checker.
Right. Or you should not be able to generate an invoice and also pay that same invoice.
Right. Maker and
Someone
checker.
else should be paying the invoice, right?
Go
He should
differently.
not be able to. Right.
Right.
So I should not be able to go to the bank with my check and then go behind the counter and then cash out the check and walk out the bank also.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Someone needs to verify the check and then give me my cash.
Right.
Does that make sense? So
Right.
we don't want to give the same person two roles where there's a toxic combination where it wouldn't make sense. They'd be able to generate, that scenario and also resolve that in scenario on their own. So they would have too much power in that sense. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So did I explain that correctly, Sai?
Sorry, I lost. I was looking at something.
Okay, sorry. I was just explaining the separation of duties. I was just using the example of like generating an invoice and paying the same invoice also. Same person should not have the privilege to do both. Something like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the difference between authentication and authorization?
Authentication is verifying you are Rafi, and after authentication, I can authorize, like the club example you gave, that you can still be authenticate, go inside the club, but you cannot still access the VIP lounge.
Mm-hmm.
So once is we are authenticating you are, and then authorizing you is still the limited access.
Right. Authentication is verifying you are who you are saying that you are. And
Right.
authorization is authorizing you to actually get that access, go into the club,
Right.
right? This is the bouncer looking at your ID and looking at your face. This is him saying, okay, go inside. You're good.
Right.
Now, what are the different types of authentication factors?
Is that for any of us to answer?
User ID, password, and like fingerprint, one-time password, single SSO, multi-factor.
Okay, those are some examples. So they typically fall into one of three categories. What do you think those three categories are?
I'm not sure. SSO, MF, and one more I'm missing.
No, no.
So
What Rafi is actually asking is,
Mm-hmm.
what are the types of authentication? Not in terms of technically. Let's say if you want to authenticate yourself against something, right? This is
mhm.
something that you should know, right? Let's
ID,
say you're verifying yourself with a application website. You should know your username and password.
username, password. Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah,
Username, password.
yeah.
Yeah,
What we generally say it as.
right.
Yeah, Rafi, carry on. I think you're making a point.
Yeah, I think so basically there's three different main types of authentication factors. Everything, all these things that you mentioned, Sardar, they generally fall into one of three categories.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is something that you know, which is the most common factor usually. For example, like you putting in your username and your password.
Right,
That's knowledge that you have that you're
right.
providing in order to get access to something, right? Or when it asks you for your mother's maiden name, that's
Mm-hmm.
your knowledge that you have that you're providing in order to get access to something.
Mm-hmm.
Then another type is something that you have. So whenever you log in from Facebook from China at 3 a.m. US time, it
Mm-hmm.
asks you to put in a code and it sends you a code to your phone, right? That's an
Right,
example of something that you have. You have the phone in your possession.
right,
So you would then go to the phone, get that code, and provide that code back to the Facebook, right?
right,
So that's something that you have. Or when you did the Okta Verify app, for example, right? When I did that, I had to go to the app and click, yes, this is me. That would also be an example of something that I have. And then also another way is something that you are. So for my computer, whenever I log in, right, it does a face scan of my face and then automatically lets me into the computer
right,
if I choose that option. So that's something I am. Or when you try to access something and you have to put your fingerprint, right? Like on your laptop, that's something that you are. It's called biometric,
biometric. Right,
right? So those
right.
are the two or three general types of authentication factors that most of these different technical authentication factors that you named fall under these three categories. Does that make sense?
So the face ID and fingerprint falls under biometric,
Mm-hmm.
and then user ID and password, that's what who you are,
That's something you know.
something I know. And
Mm-hmm.
the device, the mobile device was something we have,
Mm-hmm.
and then the fingerprint and the face ID who we are.
Correct.
Makes sense. Okay.
You know what MFA is? We just discussed it.
Mhm. Yeah.
There's more than one factor, right? So one factor could be something you know, username and password. The second factor in this scenario, multi-factor means more than one factor. It
OTP.
could be this one, or some combination of all three of those things. Just
Right,
depends.
right.
So
OTP
if
is
they,
the best example.
yeah, one-time passcode. That's it. Yeah, that's a good example. And obviously fatigue, as you know, if you keep having to do that all the time, constantly over and over and over, that can get really frustrating. So we try to minimize that user fatigue as well when we set these policies, which I think most companies do not do a very good job of these days.
Right.
So password policies, SSO. What does SSO mean?
Single sign-on.
Okay, what does explain that more?
So once I'm authenticating myself, getting the authorization through Okta, based on my role based or whatever access I have, I don't have to put password again and again. I can access all the application granted to me.
Yep, yep. Basically using one username and password to access many different applications,
Right,
right? The
right.
best example is probably Google. When you sign
Right.
into your Gmail, you get access to all of your Google
YouTube
applications,
and everything. Yeah.
right? So yeah, that's basically what it is. Password policies are different rules and regulations for passwords. Is this what that's talking about, Sai? Like, for example, passwords must have capital letter, one special character, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
Okay.
I guess
Defining the
policy.
password expiry.
Go ahead. Yeah. Password expiry, and another thing, if there is a external attempt to hack, so like 5 time wrong password
Yeah.
is entered,
Number
then
of pass
the ID will be
password
locked.
attempts to log out.
The password attempt.
Yeah.
That's what I read today. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that falls into the policies too. Yes.
Exactly. Right. Okta will let you set those policies within Okta.
Right.
Okay. Federated identity. I'm going to try to explain this concept. Federated identity would be like a level of trust that's established between different applications who all agree that they trust each other. Okay. So an example might be that, let's just say in my company, I just installed Okta. Okay. And then I start onboarding different applications like Salesforce, Google Analytics, Microsoft Office, Jira, blah, blah, blah. All those different companies have a partnership with Okta saying that, hey, Okta is a very credible, trusted company, application. So we trust that if Okta says someone is who say they're saying they are, we trust that. Okay. So that in that scenario, what happens is that if that user goes to Okta, he gives his username and password to Okta. Okta says, yep, that's Rafi. He doesn't again have to give his username and password to Microsoft and all those kind of places. Those companies have established that trust with Okta saying that, okay, if you can verify this guy is who he's saying he is, okay, we'll let him into our applications as well. That concept is federated identity. Is that right, Sai?
Yes. Basically, you're establishing a trust between two applications at first. Once of the trust is established, the IDP, the SP will consume the data from the IDP and allow the access to the particular user. So in
Right.
between, there's no user authentication is involved. Of course, there is authentication is involved, but the user won't see the login screen of the SP. So the authentication will be done from the IDP end if the user is
Right.
having a session with the IDP.
Right. An example would be when you go to your Okta dashboard, you click Facebook. It doesn't take you to the Facebook login screen. It just takes you straight into your Facebook dashboard newsfeed. You never had to log in with Facebook. And the reason this is in place is because A, so people don't have to remember many passwords, usernames, and make different ones for different applications. And B, so that Facebook never really gets to know your username and password either. So you're not giving your personal information to many different applications. So it's protection for you as well. Make sense?
So does that, it happens with me when I go to my store like computer and I access my bank information, and it sends me a message on my Gmail that login from this and this place, and I have to click like trust this device, and then next time it don't ask me especially particular. Does this also fall under the federated identity concept? Like
Could you please repeat that?
one time trust is built, then it let you go all the time.
So Sardar's question is, let's just say he's trying to log into his bank from a new device. The
Okay.
first time he logs in, he gets some type of a warning message in his Gmail saying, hey, a new device is trying to log in.
And I
He
click
then has
yes,
to provide
yes.
some code or something. Yeah, right. Then the application asks him, hey, this new device, do you trust this device next time? Should we trust this device next time? He says yes. His question is, does this fall under federated identity?
No,
Concept. No, okay.
no. So whenever you used a new device, right, it asks you for an additional MFA. This
Right.
comes under security policies.
Right.
So yeah, if you're using once you logged into any system, once after the first login, for the next time you don't need to do the MFA. Mostly you just need to enter the PIN, only one. You just need to enter the PIN to enter into the app. Only one form of authentication. But if you're using new device, in the policies they will have set in, if the user is logging with a new device, not the previous device. They will cross check with the previous device. If you're doing with the new device, then they will trigger the MFA. Once the MFA is completed, then only the access is granted. In between, if the MFA fails, the access will be not granted. So that's the end of the flow if the MFA is failed. But if the MFA is succeeded, you entered the right MFA, then the access is granted. It's a security policy. So it's an authentication policy, not the federated identity concept. But let's take once you access the bank application, right? You authenticated yourself with MFA and you access the bank application. Now inside the bank application, there are n number of resources. So one of the resources is out of the application. It will redirect you to the Chrome. Let's assume like that. From the bank app, it will be redirecting. It will be taking you to the Chrome to a different domain. But still, you are able to see your profile name, what you have logged in the app. Let's say Sardar, you're logged in, and you're still able to see in the Chrome the Sardar. You're logged into the external app with the same Sardar from bank. So in this case, this is federated identity. The bank has built a trust with the
Like
external service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Like the profile picture carries a top corner as
Yes.
which ID is logged in. I mean, I have multiple Gmails, but I can tell which ID has been logged in. Like yesterday, I was from Ibn, and today I corrected it. Makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. So this is federated identity. When the identity is being sent from one application to other application, the application that it is sending is called as IDP. The application that it is receiving is called as SP. When the data is sent from one application from another application, so there's a trust established in between. This we call it as federated identity. Okay. The process of sending is federated identity. The process, what we say single sign-on is that it's more of a user experience. The user don't need to log in multiple times. Once he logged into the IDP will take care of authentication for the other applications. So this is what single sign-on is. Just a one click, you got the user want to access the SaaS app.
What does IDR stand for? Or oh, it says IDP, never mind.
IDP.
Okay. The user wanted to access SaaS, but okay, let's think it like this, right? This is a user. Okay, even I need to run this. Bear with me for a minute. Yeah. Okay. The user had access to multiple SaaS apps. Let's tell them as service provider 1, service provider 2, service provider 3, service provider 4. Whenever the user want access to any of this application, traditionally user has to go through each one of the app. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Traditionally, if any of the user wants to access all the 4 apps, what he should do is he should go to all the 4 applications one by one. Okay. At every time of his access, it will ask for login screen. It will show a login screen and ask for username and password. Okay, agreed?
Yeah.
So why do we need identity federation in the picture? Is to avoid all these logins. Okay, this will bring the user experience to very good. So instead of he remembering all the username and passwords, instead of he going to each and every application URL endpoint. Let's say he forgot his password for this application. Now he needs to IT admin and get his password reset and do that. All this, it's a lot of time consuming and a lot of money go to support these tasks. Okay. So instead of that, what they have did is they come up with identity federation into the picture. Okay. Let's take this as identity federation. Okay. Now, what should be the flow is the user will directly reach out to the identity federation. It's nothing but your Okta right now. Identity federation software.
Is
your
that
Okta?
is that interchangeable for the word identity provider? Same thing?
Yeah, that's where I'm mentioning. The reason why I'm saying identity federation is you need to understand on a high level. IDP is okay. IDP, any application who provides the details can become an IDP, but a software which provides you an ability to do SSO into multiple applications. They can be in your organization, in the part of your organization, or they're not part of your organization also, like external applications also. Let's take it as IDP. Let's take Google, right? Google has it has own suite like Google Sheets, Google Doc, Google Meetings, right? All these are enterprise applications, like Google's in-house applications. Now Google will do federation into the in-house applications. Google is an IDP, but this is an enterprise SSO. What is happening there is like all you are accessing from Google is part of Google. But when you take LinkedIn as example, LinkedIn is not part of Google. Now the domain of the LinkedIn is also not .google.com. It is linkedin.com. Now it is a different domain. And Google is still able to federate the domain, federate the user to the external domain, which is your linkedin.com. Then the Google can say that I am a federation service. I have the identity federation capability. Okay. That's where I'm bringing the term identity federation. Okay. Following? Not following.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a small difference between enterprise single sign-on work, not small, big difference, and a software that is built only for identity federation. This is let's speak about Okta. It's a software that was only built for identity federation. Okay, to take care of your IAM thing. Now they're expanding their to PAM and IGA. That's like an updating themselves with the industrial competition. But we can say Okta as an identity federation software. Okay. Now, instead of the user going to all the 4 applications, you will just directly go to identity federation. And here, okay, here he will authenticate them himself. Once you did the authentication, you can get access to the all 4 applications where they don't be asked for login screen. The access is given based on OIDC and SAML protocol. Or SAML protocol. Any one of this protocol is being used to delegate access to the user. Okay. Now the user don't need to remember multiple username and password. Only one username and password to the Okta, and rest all he got access. How he got access? In between there is an OIDC or SAML is in picture. Okay. Following?
Right. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Now we need to understand what is IDP and what is IDP and what is SP. What is the purpose of an IDP? What is the purpose of an SP? Could anyone tell me?
IDP is doing your authentication and authorization, and SP is allowing you to access the information you are authenticate and authorized for.
Okay. Okay, let's take it.
Rafi, you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Responsible
For
Yeah.
authentication and
Providing
to
authentication and
authenticate user.
authorization. And then the service provider is the application that is actually providing the service that the user is trying to access.
Okay. So, okay, let's stick to IDP itself. One thing is it is responsible to authenticate user. What's the second action that IDP should do in terms of delegating access to the SP? What can be the other action that it does?
SSO and MF.
Authenticate
Yeah,
and
right.
authorize.
That comes
That
under MFA. Also comes under authenticate only.
okay.
But yeah, once the authentication is done, IDP is responsible to send user data.
Send user data.
Send user data to SP. Let's take it as service provider. Okay. Can you tell me the responsibility of SP?
The service provider provides the service to the user and also reads the information sent from the identity provider and trusts that information to be true about the user.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Before granting access, what it will do is it will consume the user data sent by IDP. Okay.
So
Once,
basically acknowledge the data sent by IDP.
yeah, consume and also validate. Okay.
Validate. Yeah. Consume
Yeah.
and validate.
Consume and validate the user data sent by the IDP. Once after the validation, what it will do is it will grant
Permission.
application
Permission.
access to the user. Okay. This is the primary roles, like responsible to authenticate user, send user data to service provider. And the SP primary role is to consume and validate what are the data that is being sent by IDP. Once the validation is done, if it is successful, then grant application access to the user. Okay, agreed. Following.
Yes.
If you look or as a flow, if you look as a flow, all these things in order for, let's say, user authentication is successful and user is able to access the resource, then
Mhm.
all this should happen together. Just at first, they should authenticate the user, send user data to service provider. Now service provider will consume and validate the data by the IDP, and then grant application access to the user. That's it.
Okay, so I have a question. So on
Hmm.
step number 3, consume and validate the user data sent by the IDP. They're validating the data against what? Against what
Let's say
information?
assume SAML, right? So now your IDP has sent Rafi information is sent to the SP. Okay. Now
Mhm.
SP will look into the assertion, SAML assertion. Okay. In that SAML assertion, there's something as certificate. Certificates are used to establish trust. Now there's a certificate in the SP, there's a certificate in the IDP. Okay. The same certificate will be in the SP and IDP. Let's take SP is the owner of the certificate and given it to the identity provider Okta. So SP will export that certificate, the public certificate, and give it to Okta. Now in the assertion, Okta will use that public certificate to sign the assertion. Okay. Once Okta signs that assertion with the SAML certificate, yeah, this is little more advanced. We will look into it later. But
This is
I'm telling you,
Mhm.
this is little more advanced. Certificates. The concept of certificates we had not covered yet, right?
We did it in the hands-on portion of the exam, though. When we did the SAML integration, we had to download the certificate. This is the certificate you're talking about.
Yeah, this is what.
When
In
we
order to
upload that
establish,
certificate, basically a copy goes to the IDP, one copy goes to the SP. So the SP basically then checks to see, okay, is this the matching copy? Yes. Because otherwise
yes.
somebody could try to fake that certificate and send a fake one to try to fake their way through
Why do
as the
we
IDP.
why do we need a certificate there? Is because of validation. SP will validate whether the assertion that is sent is true to IDP or not. Is it altered? Is it true or not? If it
But
is, yeah,
sorry,
yes,
go ahead.
Sadhar.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, if the certificate matches whatever the IDP the assertion is sent will be signed with the certificate, and the SP will use its certificate to verify whether the certificate is valid or not. If it is valid, then it assumes that it's a valid one and it will grant. It will consume the data. Once it is valid only, it will consume the data.
So the certificate is already in stored information with SP, or certificate is generated each time the login happens.
No, it's already stored. A certificate is something
As
that
the
has been
stored
given by,
data, it verifies. That's it.
yeah, certificate is something that has been given by any other certification authority. Let's assume like that. Okay.
Right.
Now you have the certificate with you. Now whether it can be owned by Okta or it can be SP also. It can be owned by any of them. So most of the scenarios, SP will only hold the certificate. Now what SP will do is will come whenever the integration is happening with the IDP. SP will give the certificate to the IDP. Now
What if
IDP will also configure its
it is
configuration
stored, but
using the IDP.
at what stage this certificate originated?
Yeah, right. That we will discuss.
Later on.
So yeah, not later, no, only whenever. Right now, we are speaking about the user flow. We are assuming that there is an integration already in picture
Right.
from Okta to SaaS. There is an integration already in picture. We are assuming and we are discussing this flow. Let's if you want to think about, okay, all these are good. Now I want to onboard new SAML application. Okay, new SaaS app. By default, the new SAP won't be in the Okta, right? You need to do some integration in order for you to make it available in Okta. Where you will do it, I'm going to show you in the today hands-on. But in a general scenario, at first there needs to be an integration in picture. This is what the integration looks like. This line, let's assume this as integration. So while doing the integration, what you are certain information needs to be given, right? Let's say, hey, go and meet Rafi. Sardar, go and meet Rafi today. You can't directly go and meet Rafi, right? At first, you need to know Rafi's address, and you need to know whether Rafi is available in that address or not. And Rafi
And
should agree to meet you.
mode of transportation.
Sorry?
I need a mode of transportation also.
Yeah, you need a mode of transportation also. Yeah.
Makes sense.
So let's assume IDP as Sardar and the software as a service that is as Rafi. If you want to go from here to here, the mode of transportation is OIDC or SAML. Okay. Once you go there, Rafi won't let you in because he don't know you. He won't let you in. In order to establish trust, you need to show something, right, to him. Hey, this is what I am, and this is where I am coming from. I think you probably know me. Just check with your records or something. You need to show something to him. Yeah, this is what you do in the configuration. You will be defining certificate. You will be defining the endpoint, which is address of Rafi. At first, you need to know address, right? So you'll be defining the address of Rafi in that configuration. And once after you authenticated, you will also, what we say, you will define in the configuration itself what are all the attributes that you need to take here. Let's say you are going there, you want someone is instructed you to go there and instructed you to, while going, you take all these items with you, whether it is grocery or something, all these items with you. So similarly, in the configuration, we're going to define all the user attributes, whatever is needed to go to the SaaS app. Let's say first name, last name, and email is needed for the SaaS app. Okay. Now what we will do is we will send first name, last name, and email in from IDP to SaaS app, and this will be configured while you creating the integration.
Right.
We will see. We will have a look at that. Now you're clear till here, right? Then we can go and pitch in there. Okay, it's asked me for login again. Okay, I just enable the push notification. So if I ask you anytime, you can just click on yes in the notification, then the access is granted. We don't need to.
We can also, I guess, if we wanted to, we could also change the settings to make the auto logout policy to be longer, right?
Yeah, we can do that also.
Whatever. Okay.
Yes. So right now you're seeing, right? These are the applications that is in your dashboard. This is Okta admin console. This is Okta dashboard. This comes pre-configured. And then you have workflows. If you can see on the end user dashboard, I'm seeing the workflows. So all the others are by default, they are there. And how the access is delegated is by using these apps only. Now, if I can bring some external application into this so that end user can see the external application here. Okay. Then he don't need to authenticate with that external application. He can directly click on here and he will be logged in to the external app. Now we're gonna try that. So we're gonna create a basic SAML application and try the SSO.
Then this simple one he's about to show.
Do you mind me asking what website that was and what's the purpose of that?
So this is an sample website,
Okay.
that is open for all to test their single sign-on work using SAML.
Okay.
Okay. You can use this website whenever you want to test your integration, whether using any of the IDP. It can be an Okta, Ping Federate, whatever. If you want to test whether your federation is working or
Okay.
not, then you can use this website.
Is that like is that the app you're making, or
Sorry.
I know that you're about to create an application, and so the application, are you going to choose it from the OIN, or is that the application
No.
that you're going to make?
This app is not the OIN. We're gonna
Okay.
create an application. Okay.
Okay.
So yes. So if you want, see, yesterday we have seen in the Rafi's tenet, we have seen 10 plus applications. If you want same to be happen with your end user, you can get 10 application access to 10. Then there needs to be a configuration here. At first, we need to integrate the application. So it can be yeah. So as Eddie said, we can integrate an application from the Okta integration network. They say it as Okta integration network, where they have pre-integrated lot of they have configured lot of industry widely used industrial applications. Okay, if you can see, they say 8,111 applications. So currently, all these applications are pre-configured with Okta, and this is not kind of limited to 8,000 level only. This is an ongoing. So every week or every month, they're gonna come up with new integrations in the picture. Okay, whatever the leading or most widely used applications in the industry, they will try to configure it and bring it to the integration network. So
They, as in
why
Okta on their own, is doing this, or
Okta?
some other
Yeah,
individual users are?
Okta.
Okay.
Okta on their own is doing it.
Okay.
In one way, Okta will do it. Let's say Rafi has built an application called some XYZ application. He built it, and he want to market it, and he's marketing also. Now he comes to Okta and says that, hey, I have the application. This is an homegrown application. I want to keep this homegrown application in the OIN network. You can make a request to the Okta guys and get your application published in the Okta OIN network. Okay, you got it? No.
Yes, I'm understanding. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, even if it is a homegrown application, you can make a request to the Okta integration to the Okta to add it into OIN. But what you are seeing right now is these are all mostly been integrated, been configured by the Okta team. Okay. Now we're not going to use any of this application. So what we are doing is we are creating an SAML application from scratch. So yeah, either you can choose OIDC or SAML. It depends on your external SP. If your SP is expecting OIDC token, then we're going to use OIDC. So right now our application is assuming to receive SAML session. So we're going with SAML.
Sai, can you explain this to us from the concept of, let's just say I am an IMBA, Identity Access Management Business Analyst, right? So if I am helping to onboard this application now, whether it's SAML or OpenID Connect, that information is typically going to come from the application owner that I'm communicating with. They will tell me, right?
Yes.
I'm going to
They
go to
will
them
tell
and
you.
ask them.
Yeah, you should go to them and ask them which protocol that your application supports.
Got it.
They will say SAML or OIDC. If they say SAML and OIDC, if the application supports both SAML and OIDC, Then again, you need to ask them which one you are preferring to have. When doing the configuration in Okta, which one, whether OIDC or SAML, which one you prefer to use. Okay, they will only tell you we prefer to use SAML or we prefer to use OIDC.
Got it. And we're building a custom one right now. We're not choosing one from the OIN, right?
Yes. Yeah, we're not choosing it from the OIN.
And most of the applications that are onboarded in a typical organization, like let's just say all the ones I showed yesterday, they probably just picked from the OIN, right? Because they're probably common big applications.
We can't say, yeah, of course there are, but we can't say most of them because OIDC plays a very prominent role in the industry. It depends on which organization that you're working on. If your organization has most of homegrown applications, then they would mostly go with the OIDC. But if your organization has most of enterprise applications, so which are well known like Microsoft or Salesforce, all this, then they will go with the OIN, and most of the OIN might use the SAML.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but I'm asking
Mm.
like most of these major applications, let's just say at my company, we've onboarded Outlook, Salesforce, Google
Yeah,
Analytics, blah, blah, blah,
that's
blah,
that's
blah.
mm.
Those are
That's where
all
I'm telling,
those.
right?
Uh-huh.
It depended on the organization that you're working on. Let's assume the organization that I'm working is finance sector. Okay, where most of the applications are homegrown application, which means that the internally hosted applications. They're not on the SaaS. They're not SaaS. Okay, for the internal applications, people prefer to use OIDC protocol for the homegrown. Again, it's dependent on the application developer, but I have seen people, depending on the sector, they use applications. And the sector, I don't know what sector you're working. Your one is mostly using the well-known applications like which are part of the OAM. Okay, and also there can be other applications which you can't see. They are all part of the OIDC also. I
My
can't
question,
directly say.
my
Yeah.
question is more so like if an application is available in the OIN, is there
Mm.
any, is that, if that's the case, do we typically just choose and pick it from the OIN, or do we still do this custom process? For all those
No, we
major
pick it from
applications,
OAM.
we would pick from the OIN, right? We would not want to do all this
Yeah.
work by ourselves if it's already been done and in the network,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
This is only for you, typically only used for applications that do not exist in that integration network
OAM.
already.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Now, in that case, yeah, you should always use the OAM unless there is any special requirement saying that build it from scratch. Okay.
Right.
Now I have chosen the SAML. Okay, let me name it. Okay, so I do have given the option with to do not display icon, application icon to users. If you don't want to, expose this application to your end users, you can do that. It won't show the icon. Right now it is showing me an icon, right? Workflows. If I take this, if it won't show you the IAM showcase app icon in your end user dashboard. Now basically it's asking for single sign-on URL. Single sign-on URL, if you can see here, it says the location where SAML session is sent. Okay, where? Okay, let me ask you here. From Okta, where we are sending the SAML assertion?
To the service provider.
SP.
Yes, to the service provider. Okay, now we can't, let's assume that sptest.imshowcase.com, we can directly send the assertion to the to this URL, right? There is an endpoint specially created to consume the data. Okay, this is, if you can see test sp underscore metadata.xml. This endpoint is there to give you the metadata information. And if you see instruction slash start, this is there to give you the basic info of instructions. Similarly, there is a endpoint to consume the session. So in the metadata, you can find that session consumer service binding. So this is a URL, an URL that says ACS. ACS is nothing but session consuming service. Now I'm gonna copy this session consumer URL and put it in the single sign-on URL. So this is where the session will be sent from Okta to SP. Now they are asking
That's
for,
basically taking place of the login screen that the user would normally see. Is that kind of how this
no,
works?
no. Login screen will come with /login. Agreed?
Right.
What is here coming up with? It's ACS. Any of the application, they don't use the login. They will come up with an ACS session consumer endpoint. Okay, ACS URL. So that
Each
endpoint,
application will have one of these URLs it will generate when we're
yes.
doing this process, right?
No. But it will be there. It is exposed. It is there in the internet. It is exposed and it is there. It's not generated when we are doing the integration. No, it's there in the application design itself. The ACS will be there and it will be exposed to the internet. Okay, following.
So let's just say you're onboarding my website, rafichowdhury.com. What would be the URL in this case for my website?
So yeah, so let's assume that I am the Okta guy and you are the application guy. Then I'm gonna ask you. The first question is, what is the protocol that the app supports? Now you said SAML. The next thing that I will ask is, I need details of your SAML application. Can you get me your session consumer URL, ACS URL? Now that guy, you're the application owner, right? You will get me the in the application configuration itself. We didn't mention anything about the attribute. Next point. Okay. Are you able to see SAML here?
Yes, sir.
As an end user, I came to Okta and clicked on IAM Showcase. What Okta did is, Okta framed an assertion with whatever the details of the end user that Okta had. It has framed the assertion and sent it to the ACS URL. And how Okta knows that this is the ACS URL is the configuration we mentioned. This is the assertion consumer URL. We told it in the configuration itself. So because Okta knows that this is the endpoint, to this endpoint, it has reached with SAML assertion. Now, if I click on that, I click on SAML, this is how your assertion looks like.
The information that SAML container sent over to the next application, to the service provider. This is the metadata showing that what information was exchanged between the IDP.
Console to send the subject. To send the first name or last name.
So you're able to manipulate the assertion?
Yeah, let me see if I can add. Yeah, we should be able to manipulate this. So basically, we are just inputting that needed. Yeah, here you can see it. Let's say I want to send attribute first name.
But then you also have to map it too, right?
Yeah, here I'm mapping it. user first name. I mapped it to user first name. Now, if you can't save, once I go here and do the sign on, admin console, this will be also communicated by the app team. The app team will say that these are all the list of attributes that we should receive in the SAML session. Okay.
If we refresh the page, is that going to show?
Sorry, Eddie.
So if we refresh the page, the one that all the information, all the assertion information, like the first name, last name, and all that, is that going to change on the page that the user is supposed on the SP provider side? Because
I didn't got you.
we just manipulated something, right?
We didn't. We configured it. Okay. We configured saying that send first name also, and we mapped it to the user's first name in Okta. Send an attribute called first name, and we mapped it. Let me show you that.
Are those changes going to be present on the page that the user is supposed to see?
If I configured it, if I configure last name also, in the session, it will start including the last name. Last name, email.
So
So
that mapping process that we do, it's like another step outside of just this, where we map the two sides when we did that use case. Why are we not having to do that part here? And it's just automatically mapping it right now.
Yeah, because the previous one that you did is it's an AD, right? And also if you do it on the OIN also, what happens? They are pre-configured, which means that the OIN knows that what are all the attributes that are available in the SP, so that you can map it using attribute mapping section. Right now, here we don't know what are all the attributes that the SP will consume. Okay, we just asking the SP guy. Okta don't know. When we say we don't know, Okta don't know. Then as a admin, I'm asking that app guy, what are all the attributes that is needed for you in order to give access to the user. They will come up with list of attributes. Let's say 10 attributes. These are all the 10 attributes that are mandatory to have. Please send it in the session.
The application owner has to be able to tell you in the value section, all these different things you're putting in, like user.first name, blah, blah, blah. They have to give you that information, say, hey, these are the attributes that we currently have in place that you can map to.
Yes.
You can't just make up stuff here and just automatically expect it to.
No. You can't just make up anything. You need to check with the guy which protocol you need to use, and you need to check with the guy to get the session consumer endpoint. Even with the certificate, you need to check with the guy, and even with the data which you are sending from Okta to that sample application or whatever application, you need to check with the guy to which data you want to receive along with first name, last name, email. Is there any other things that you are specific to? Then we're gonna send the data. So right now, see, I can add a number of attributes here. I can map it and send it. So only thing is I need to follow what the application guy is expecting, right? I need to achieve that what the application guy is expecting. So here I'm showing you for the testing purpose, I'm showing you that we can control the session, how an admin can control the session. Initially, I just only sent the subject, but later I sent the first name also. Now, if the user can log in, I added the last name and email also. So we should have, we should see the last name and email in the session. So if you can see last name, first name, email, and last name. We're seeing 3 of them. Previously, we didn't see any of it, right? If I can click on SAML assertion, in the assertion itself, we will find these details. See, in the attribute statement, we are seeing, Rafi for the first name. The name of the attribute statement is first name. And then you are seeing Rafi, the value is the Rafi. Okay, he is the last name, and the value is Chowdhury. Similarly, you have email, the value. You can manipulate it, or we can say you can configure it to to send data which is needed. Let's say they come up and say tomorrow, they come up and say, hey, along with first name, last name, email, we're also expecting a department attribute. What you're going to do, you will go to configuration, add the department in the session, and then you map it to the department value of that user.department. Okay, once you map it, then it will pop up. What you will do, you want to do a testing with yourself, and in the session, if you are able to see the department popped up in the attribute statement, the department popped up and it came up with a value, that means that you're good to go. If I go to the previous one, see for this session, there is no attribute value. If I look at the SAML assertion inside it, it only has subject, SAML subject, which is Rafi, and it has only audience, which is nothing but your entity ID. It's expecting an entity ID. Apart from that, there is no attribute statement involved here. Are you able to see any attribute statement? Only the subject and entity ID, that's it. Because we are only sending those two. We are not sending any of the attribute statement. Where then you're not able to see the attribute statement here. But if you see here, right now I'm sending the attributes. Because of that, I'm able to see the attribute statement. And the attribute statement will have the details of all the whatever that is been sent. Okay, following.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think we are good for today.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can try to do the, so everyone has their own tenet, right? You can try to do this integration.
Yeah, one question. This is what we are studying is for which kind of certification and what role? Like, is it admin certification or consultant or?
Right now, this is an knowledge, but this can be used for the professional admin consultant also. Okay,
So this is like general knowledge right now.
general knowledge. We are not going
I think
specifically
this is
on
part
any
of the
certification.
admin. There's a use case like this in the admin where it tells you to create an app integration.
Okay.
This is
So-
what Sai is showing here is a very fundamental concept in Okta where you're basically, configuring and onboarding an application. This is like one of the main things you do in Okta. And this application onboarding, like this integration that he's showing in the Okta Professional, the first exam, you will have to do this using an app from the integration network, which is slightly easier. And in the second test, which is the admin test, you will have to do it this way, this manual way. So it's one of the hands-on use cases as well in both exams.
Okay.
So for now, what we are doing is on an understanding of Okta. I'm just giving you the understanding of Okta, what it is capable of, all these things. If you are preparing for any certification, you will go through the that certificate related use cases. Okay, we do already have those use cases because we will just do those use cases in our lab and make it working. Then we are good to clear.
Yes, sir.
So it's up to you, Sardar. I think at first you should start with professional and then go for the admin, because for the admin, professional is the prerequisite.
Yeah, professional. I'm working. So if you could send me some material or videos, where I can expedite that. So I'm planning to secure the professional certification maybe in 2 weeks.
Rafi has some really good YouTube videos.
I think honestly, if like Sai, if we start back up with my practice exams, right? I think if Sardar just simply does that, he doesn't really need to study for the professional because the admin is making you do that plus more. So he'll already know, he'll get to already see how to create a user, how to provision and
Do
deprovision
you
users, how to create a group. rule, blah, 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 all the basic stuff. Because the admin will just build on top of what the professional was.
Have you documented the use cases for the professional, Rafi?
Yeah, I have a couple of videos on YouTube that, and I'm sure I documented it too. But what I'm saying is that
Yeah,
everything we
got
did in
you.
the first exam,
If
we will need to do some form of it in the second one plus more. So
mm,
if he just simply picks up from where I am, he can most definitely pass the first one because the first one is just rudimentary concepts of the second one. There's nothing
yes,
new that he's doing in the first one that he's not doing in the second one. It's the same thing.
yeah,
Except instead of doing the manual SAML integration, he's just gonna pick one from the integration network. That's the only difference. Other than that, most of the use cases for the first and second are very similar. The second is just more expanded versions.
yeah. If he can do the admin, then he can do the professional also. But still, I was just thinking if you have any use cases documented, we can give you a walkthrough to him.
Yeah, I
So
have to
any
go through
was
all
there
those
with the
videos and find them. I'm
uh,
sure I have it though. I'm sure I have it.
okay, if you can get those use cases, it will be easy for him because once you know what the use cases that's going to be in the examination, he will just give you
Mhm.
an 1 to 2 times hands-on in his tenant on his own. Then he's good to go. Of course, if he can prepare for the admin, he can do that also. So it's better to have the hands-on before going on to the certification. That's what I feel.
So Eddie, since you've been watching those videos, do you know which one is the one where I got 100% on the hands-on use case for the professional? Do you have that video saved by chance?
I don't, but I can find it pretty easily.
Okay.
But
If you
I'd
can
watch
find
all
it,
of
can
them
you
honestly,
drop it in the
because
group chat?
yeah, I'd watch all of them just because like different videos have different like the questions switch up a little bit on the because you have 7 different exam attempts, and I feel like some of the questions do change. So
The
I
the
just
hands-on part, it doesn't change. So we just need to find one video where I did the hands-on A to Z and I made 100% on all 4 use cases. And I'll give that to Sardar and then he can just watch that and just do that. That's it. The questions, when we start studying the questions for the second exam, he will already know the answers to the first ones. Because the second one literally just builds on top of what was done in the first one.
I got you.
So Sardar, there's basically 2 sections to the
Mm-hmm.
exam, right? In the first section, you have 15 multiple choice questions.
Choice, yeah.
They
And then
use a
for use,
format called DOMC, which
yeah.
stands for discrete option multiple choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you get one question right, it asks you another follow-up like that. You have to get all of them right to get the whole thing right, something like that, right? So
Right.
that's a part of it, but the big most important part of it is the hands-on part of it where you have to actually do these things, right? You have to do a configuration. You have to, it tells you like, hey, make a user named blah blah blah, assign them a role of blah blah blah, make a group called blah blah blah, right? Assign this person to the group. It'll tell you to do these things,
Assign
right?
the supervisor or admin role and
Yeah,
active,
something like
non-active
that.
state.
So all
Right.
those things, they don't change on the exam. It's gonna be the exact same ones that I did, unless they're changing it since I did the exam, which was not too long ago.
Mm.
So what I'm suggesting is that you watch one of those videos where I made a hands-on, 100% on the hands-on portion of it. Just
Mm-hmm.
do it on your own in class with us, whatever. And that's really all you need to do to catch up to where I am. Then the rest of it, you can just go along with where I am currently in my learning.
Right.
Okay, please share those YT videos in the group. Okay, I want to see those use cases in a document. So rather than you can take a screenshot and put it in a
I think
doc.
I have them. I'll see if I can find it. But Eddie, if I can, if you don't mind, I'm gonna give you as a homework. Find one that's where I made 100% on the Okta professional and drop that YouTube video in that group chat so we can pin it.
I'll have to look for it, bro. I have to look
Okay.
for it. Let me see what I can
Okay.
do. I'm gonna just send them all of them honestly, because that's what helped me, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you. I watched all of them, and that's what helped me. But I'll try and find the one you're looking for so that
Okay.
he's able to use that.
Yeah, I'll try to find it too. Okay.
Already you were able to get your professional certification through those videos. Have you have your
Honestly, Those videos was all I needed. Well, I wouldn't say it was all I needed really. I also purchased the practice test. Once I practiced the practice test, and I looked it up on YouTube, and I realized Rafi had uploaded his experience, and so it helped me as I got the practice test, and I went along with his videos, and then I took the test, and I did pretty good. But
You
yeah,
already
that's
have the admin, Eddie?
I have the professional. I'm working on the admin right now.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
But let me see what I can do for you and find those videos.
Okay, cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah,
Thank you, Sai. Thank you,
thank you,
Rafi.
Yeah,
Sai.
so I can see tomorrow's meeting has been cancelled. So fine.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's take a break. I got some other stuff
Okay.
I gotta do tomorrow, and then we'll pick back up maybe like on Thursday, or if not, definitely Friday for sure.
Yeah,
That's cool
yeah.
with you
So
guys.
whenever
Next week will be my little break. If we can take a break, or I can catch up later because I'm traveling Friday.
Mhm.
You're traveling next week? Okay. Okay, we'll see what we can do. Okay.
I mean, 10 days I'll be
you
out.
can
Okay.
yeah, you can let me know a day before. So if you are planning to have a class, then you can let me a day before.
Okay, yeah. I'll let you know. We'll take a break for tomorrow though.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Then yes.
You
All right,
guys have a
thank you all.
wonderful night.
See you guys. Thank you, Sai.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Sai.
Rafi, you can
Thanks,
stay.
man.
You can stay.
Yeah. Let me start the recording.
Thank you, Sai.